Democrats lately have been such babies. Oh boy. I'll show you what's been going on in North Carolina. One Democrat switched party to Republican, and they're freaking out. And it even made the New York Times. So Democrats' U-turn to join the GOP upends North Carolina politics. The change in allegiances by a Democratic state representative gave Republicans narrow veto-proof majorities in both chambers, allowing them to bypass Roy Cooper, a Democrat. Yeah. And it starts off saying, the startling defection of a longtime Democratic lawmaker upended the balance of power in North Carolina. State Representative Tricia Cottom said she was becoming a Republican, saying that she had been bullied by her fellow Democrats and had grown alienated from the party on issues like school choice. Well, and now that can happen if you start bullying someone and you start treating them badly. They're not going to want to associate with you. It's kind of funny that way, isn't it? Oh, and school choice. Yeah, that's been something that North Carolinians are more and more concerned about and want more and more. The Democrats just won't budge on it. Not even so much as giving charter schools the fair shake that they're supposed to have, so. She said, the modern-day Democratic Party has become unrecognizable to me and to so many others throughout this state and this country. Both she and her young children had been subjected to personal attacks by Democrats in the state and denounced what she called attempts to control her. They have pushed me out, she said. So what happens? You start treating people like that. What do you expect when you start, you start doing the woke stuff and you got to say, oh, you've got to agree with this crazy thing 100%, or you're exactly like an ultra mega MAGA right wing conspiracy, red hat wearing, Trump supporting, etc., etc. She once stood on the House floor and shared her experience of having an abortion, calling it a deeply personal decision and accusing Republican lawmakers of wanting to play doctor. And she's also voted on a platform of raising the minimum wage, protecting voting rights, and bolstering LGBTQ rights. Now, however, her decision helps Republicans cement razor-thin but complete control over a second chamber of the legislature, giving them the ability to bypass Roy Cooper, a Democrat, and create a glide path for their legislative agenda. Now keep in mind, she hasn't said anything at all about if she's going to vote differently on anything. She just changed the D next to her name to an R. That's all she did. Because she didn't want to deal with those unreasonable Democrats anymore. Republicans will have the 72 votes they need to override Mr. Cooper's vetoes. They already have a veto-proof majority in the Senate. Yeah, well, it's probably a good thing if you see the kind of thing. Last year, I think it was, there was a Second Amendment protection bill, which just says we're going to respect the rights of gun owners in the state, like you're required to under the Second Amendment. And there's also a comparable clause in the North Carolina Constitution. Yeah. Democrats don't like that, but they swore an oath to it, so that's what they have to do, but he vetoed it. And they didn't have enough votes in the House to override the veto, so. The Republicans have long controlled the legislature. Oh, God. New York Times. Throughout North Carolina history, Republicans did not have a majority in both the North Carolina House and Senate until 2010. And then it says they lost their supermajorities in both chambers in 2018. Okay, so for 8 years, they've long controlled the Senate or legislature. 8 years. That would be like saying, Barack Obama long controlled the White House. It's the same period of time. 8 years. Gotta love the news media. All right, Tim Moore, Republican Speaker of the House, praised her as having a bipartisan streak and characterized the defection as part of a national move where folks realize that there's this wokeness that is pervaded in a lot of ways. Governor Cooper said he was troubled by Ms. Cotham's shifting alliances. This is a disappointing decision, he said. Representative Cotham's views on women's reproductive freedom, election laws, LGBTQ rights, and strong public schools will determine the direction of the state we love. It's hard to believe she would abandon these long-held principles, and she should still vote the way she has always said she would vote when these issues arise, regardless of party affiliation. Well, who says she won't? She just wants to get away from you people, but she's still probably going to vote the way she wants. So. Democratic Representative Robert Reeves, in a statement issued shortly after Ms. Cottam moved her desk in the chamber on Tuesday, accused his colleague of deceiving her constituents and called on her to step down. Oh yeah, they're getting more histrionic. The appropriate action is for her to resign so that her constituents are fairly represented in the North Carolina House of Representatives. Do you see the mindset? According to this guy, you vote parties in. You vote Democrat. You vote Republican. No. You vote for individuals. They voted for her. The people of, I think she's in the Mint Hill district. That's kind of, if you look at a map of Mecklenburg County, there's kind of this point that goes out to the east. And I think that's the district she's in. The people of that district voted for her. They said, yes, we want to vote for Cottam. It's not just Democrat or Republican, but that's how these people think. They're collectivists. You as an individual do not matter to them. You as an individual making your own choices and deciding your own way, how you're going to vote, who you're going to support, what you're going to do, things like that. That doesn't matter to them. You have to be part of their collective. And now she put on another team's jersey. And they're freaking out about it. And we're just getting started with that, so. During a battle over an abortion bill in 2015, Ms. Cottam spoke on the House floor about having had an abortion. My womb and my uterus is not up for your political grab. Legislators, you do not hold shares in my body. So stop trying to manipulate my mind. I reckon she's probably saying the same thing to the Democrats right now. Said it to the Republicans then, said it to the Democrats now. Stop trying to manipulate my mind. Emily's List, a national group that backs women who support abortion rights, issued a statement criticizing Ms. Cottam for joining a Republican caucus that has stridently opposed abortion rights, rolled back voting rights, and imposed deep cuts on public education for years. By changing parties and abandoning the principles that our community fights to uphold, Representative Cottam is no longer eligible for the group's support. You know how, like, you were a kid, you had a friend, and the friend was a real jerk to you, and you just had enough. And you say, okay, I'm not associating with you. I'm out, and you walk away. And what do? They yell at you, you can't be my friend anymore. That's exactly what they did. Oh my God, do these people not realize? They make themselves look like children on a playground when they do stuff like this. Is there any self-awareness here at all? Oh, my goodness. Oh, my stars and garters. In recent days, there have been signs of a fissure between Ms. Cottam and Democrats. Her absence during a floor vote last week allowed Republicans to override Mr. Cooper's veto of a bill removing permit requirements for handguns. Yeah. We talked about that before. It was in the Bogosity podcast. I pulled out a clip of that and put it up so you could see it. But yeah, this was a Jim Crow law. This law was specifically designed and expressly designed to stop black people from carrying handguns and owning handguns. It was a Jim Crow law, a literal eugenics law. And the Democrats were fighting to keep it, so yeah, it passed. And Roy Cooper vetoed it, and they overrode it, so. It was the first Republican override of Mr. Cooper's veto since 2018. State Representative Cecil Brockman, a Democrat who also missed the floor during the veto override, said in an interview that, "I didn't see it coming, but I do get how she feels resentful from the constant character attacks that she has received and a couple of us has received. It's a lot of eating your own. The biggest issue with Democrats in the state of North Carolina is we'd rather be right than win elections." Oh, he was doing so well up to the end there, wasn't he? No, it's not about they'd rather be right than win elections. They'd rather win elections than be right. It's the wrong way around there, Brockman. Yeah. Yeah, you'd rather, the party rather, would rather be woke and just push out everyone with even a minuscule difference between them than actually try to figure out, the truth about things, try to examine everything, economically and turn away from eugenics policies like gun control and minimum wage and things like that. So, no, it is about winning elections. That's what the recent thing is about. Yeah. It's what it's all about. I mean, it's what it's always about, but in particular lately, just look at what happened in 2016 and 2020, the respective freakouts about that. 2022, particularly in Maricopa County in Arizona. Yeah, I mean, it's all about who can cheat the most and win the election and push out everyone with even a smittance of disagreement. I don't think smittance is a word, but whatever. Women in the House caucus, she said, had started vicious rumors that are very hypocritical of other stances they make. Democrats hypocrites? Say it ain't so. Interest groups and lobbying firms that are aligned with the Democratic Party have directly sent messages to my 12-year-old son and recalled an incident where a woman loudly criticized Ms. Conham and her son while shopping at Target. Come on, leave the kid out of it. You got problems with her? Take it up with her. Leave the kid alone. Jeez. And you wonder why she left. You wonder. You treat her like that and you wonder why she switched parties. Seriously, man. Yeah. In November, the party reclaimed a majority on the state Supreme Court, giving it a 5-2 conservative lean and removing a key check on Republican lawmakers' attempts to further gerrymander the state legislative and congressional maps. Oh boy. Democrats in North Carolina have no cause to complain about anyone else gerrymandering. I mean, yeah, Republicans gerrymandered the districts. If you look at it, they got these weird long strip-shaped districts. But it's not anywhere near as bad as it was when Democrats were in charge. You had these weird-shaped, crinkly districts that snaked around everywhere. And whenever someone would do, like nationwide, someone would do a story on gerrymandering and talk about the worst gerrymandered districts, they'd usually include at least 3 from North Carolina. So they're at least not that bad. They're still gerrymandered, but that kind of gerrymandering is not what they're talking about. I've talked about this before. I'm going to link to a couple videos. There's like one that was called the I-85 district because it kind of snakes and crinkles its way up 85 from Charlotte to, I think, through Greensboro and all the way to Raleigh, I think. And it was drawn specifically to get Mel Watt elected so they can have a black person elected. That is a racial gerrymander. That is exactly what the Supreme Court said you can't do. And so, okay, you've got the Republican districts. They're a lot better. They're not as good as they should be. I mean, there are algorithms that you can run and tell it to do things like, respect county borders and things like that. But otherwise, just draw sensible districts. You can do that in 2 seconds, but they didn't do that because they got it. But it's not as bad. But their complaint was that you no longer had these crinkly districts and black people couldn't get elected. That's just, first of all, it's not true. But, the fact that they're saying it's racial gerrymandering not to racially gerrymander it. That's what they're saying. So, yeah. You gotta watch it, man. They'll double talk to you. It doesn't come as a surprise to me, but it does shift total power to the state legislature away from the governor's office, said Republican Pat McCrory, former governor. Oh, shut up, McCrory. No one cares. God. This is what he's literally going to be. They're taking away more powers from the governor's office. But they're the legislative. You're just the executive. I know you didn't want it to be that way. I know when you were governor, you were trying to run it like your own little duchy. I'm surprised you didn't make yourself a silly hat to wear there in the governor's mansion. I don't know, for all I know, you did. But no, it's supposed to be limited separation of powers. And just because the legislature is controlling more legislative abilities and saying, hey, governor, you can only do things that we give you the power to do via legislation, which is how it's supposed to work. Oh, they're taking power away. Oh, shut up. Ms. Cottom's mother, Pat Cottom, who is a Mecklenburg County Commissioner, urged her daughter's critics to reserve judgment and said that her daughter came to this decision with prayer and great reflection. She is not afraid to stand alone. I admire her courage in making this hard decision. I hope both parties encourage members of their caucuses to serve their constituents and collaborate with their colleagues with dignity and respect. Yeah. Again, all she did was switch parties. She hasn't said, I've, become pro-life instead of pro-choice, or I'm now against, LGBTQ rights or whatever. She hasn't said anything like that. She just switched parties. That's all she did. All right. Anything else worth covering in this? Okay, the very end, I guess. Sheila Huggins, a Democratic National Committee member from North Carolina, said Ms. Cottom's decision was a reminder that the state was still red with pockets of blue. There are always those few people who register blue and say they're blue, but don't always come through in the end. She knows what this change does. I think she said a little more than she was intending to there. The state was red with pockets of blue. Yeah, what are those pockets? It's Mecklenburg County. It's Raleigh-Durham. It's the Triad and some parts of the Northeast. Almost all of the state is red. When you've got the Rot Belt is red. Most of the Piedmont, other than Charlotte, is red. I think pretty much all of the mountains are red. Most of the state is red. This is the urban-rural divide. That's what you're seeing, just like with everywhere else. The urban-rural divide. Yeah, and Democrats, the blue, they represent the urban, the rich, the elites. And the rest of us always suffer from it. The rest of us have to deal with roads that are falling apart. Oh my God, it's just gotten really bad. And road projects get delayed for decades. Literally decades. Near where I live, there's Highway 73. It's still 2 lanes. Trying to get from eastern Lincoln County to Huntersville is like a nightmare. And they pushed it back again. They're not going to start groundbreaking on the widening until 2026. It's just absolutely ridiculous. But yeah. Yep, Democrats are freaking out about it, like Jeff Jackson. Oh, he did this Twitter thread. Oh boy. It's just so much fun to watch the freak out. He tweeted, "This morning there was a political earthquake in North Carolina." Yeah, we know how earthquakes in North Carolina go, don't they? Oh, North Carolina had its biggest earthquake in a century. Oh no, something fell off a shelf. That's earthquakes in North Carolina. A legislator in the state house announced she was switching parties from Democrat to Republican. I want to make sure you understand how dramatic the impact of this switch will be. You ain't winning any Oscars there, bud. Until today, Democrats had enough votes to sustain the governor's veto, but only by a margin of 1 vote in the NC House. With this switch, Republicans will now have a supermajority in both chambers, which just gave them full control for the first time in 2017. I can't overstate the consequences of this switch. Now again, she hasn't said anything about how she's voting differently. Anything about what she's going to do differently. It's the individual votes that they make that override the veto. It doesn't happen just automatically because there's a certain number of Republicans. This is all individual decisions. But Democrats like him just can't see past the collective to the individual. And that's what it's all about. While we don't know how she will vote on any given bill, yeah, so maybe you should have a little more self-awareness about your position then, if you acknowledge that. Dozens of bills that were essentially dead, from election law changes to reproductive freedom to LGBTQ rights to educational policy, may have just sprung back to life. She hasn't given any indication of that. She hasn't given any indication that she'll vote differently. And if your only assumption of that is her switching parties, to get away from a party that has been abusing her, well, even if she does, you got no one to blame but yourselves. This will likely have a major impact on funding for public education and teacher pay. Oh, what, you mean we might get school choice? Because she is a proponent of school choice. They always say about school choice, it takes money away. What? Because poor people can actually now, and minorities, their children are going to be going to your fancy schmancy schools? Oh, the horror. There goes the neighborhood. Yeah, because they don't have access to that because they can't afford the housing to get into the really nice school districts. But if we had school choice, if we had a money follows the child policy, or, the heavens forbid, if we actually had equality with the charter schools, they actually did get, as they're supposed to, the same amount of money the public schools get per pupil. If we actually started doing that, and if we extended that to private schools as well, maybe things might start improving education-wise. But you see, they don't care about education. They care that they control education. That's what it's about. That's why he emphasized public education. For public education, read education that they can control, where they can indoctrinate your children the way they think your children should be indoctrinated. I have never seen anything like this. One person changed party. One person switched the letter next to the name. You've never seen that? Oh. This legislator was a longtime Democrat and had just been elected on a strongly Democratic platform in a district that votes Democrat by roughly 20 points. I'm hearing from many of her constituents, and they are in a state of shock. How could she be a Republican? All right. True colors time. Are you ready for this? There are no recall provisions in North Carolina. She will be able to serve her full 2-year term, which just began in January. for that period, Republicans will now be in full control. And then they're literally calling on her to resign. She should resign. The people voted for her because they liked her platform. Agree with it or not, they voted for her because they liked it. So you're going to take that choice away from them because you don't like something she did. That's fascism, people. That's literal fascism. I'm not saying that just as an invective, the way, Democrats do. Hey, you're being fascist. That's literally what fascist countries would do. It's unclear whether she intends to run for re-election or seek another office in 2024. At this point, we can safely say the decision by this legislator to suddenly switch parties will have major consequences for millions of people. Oh my God. I thought that in one of these stories there was something where they were insisting that she resign. Did I read over that? Oh yeah, I did read that. Yeah, Robert Reeves. Yeah. Said the appropriate action for her is to resign. Yeah. Because she switched parties. Because that's what it's all about. It's about the D and the R. You wonder why people have stopped being Democrats and started going over to Republicans or independents or libertarians or Greens or whoever they go to. You wonder why they stopped being Democrats? Take a look in the mirror. Take a look at your own behavior. Because that's what's doing it. Oh, man. It's entertaining, man. North Carolina politics. Just wanted to share that with you, so I hope you're as amused by it as I am. Hey, I have to live here. At least you can watch from afar and pop popcorn. I have to live with this. So, thank you so very much. Comments for the comment god, shares for the share throne. Please hit like, subscribe, and the bell. Go to donate.pagosity.tv to keep me doing what I do. I really hope you enjoy all this. Thank you so very much. Until next time, stay strong and be free.